to be moderating this panel today. We're going to be talking about the thing that's on the top of everyone's tongue, reimagining the production and creative process with AI. I know a lot of us are starting to dabble, some of us are a little bit more experts at it, and we all probably can use a bit of a lesson. So there's a bunch of people on this stage that have had great experiences so far in AI in their careers, and I'm excited to hear about that. I'll do a little intro of myself, and then we're going to just go down the line and hear about everyone else. So, like I said, I work at HAVAS. I'm Group's Creative Director. I'm really honored to be here at CANNES for my first time as part of HAVAS's Femmes Forward Frida program, which is designed to help female creative leaders move up to executive roles. So I get a chance to tell a lot of amazing travel stories for City Advantage, the travel credit card portfolio. I get to tell a lot of amazing stories about the hard work of realtors for the National Association of Realtors, and I get to tell some fun stylish stories for Wayfair. And then I get to tell some more serious stories for the City of Chicago's Community Safety Office. So it runs the gamut, and it's part of what's really fulfilling about advertising.
Hello, my name is Heather Harlow. I'm an executive producer at AKQA, based out of the San Francisco office. I've been with the company now for 7 years, working across studios, but primarily focusing on content creation, producing the old sense broadcast. That doesn't make sense anymore, but you all know what it means. Yeah, that's any questions?
I'm the token Australian Creative Director. My name's Emlyn. I was based out of New York. I work for AKQA San Francisco. And I guess the reason I'm here is some of the collaboration I've done recently in AI with someone you may have heard of today called Portrillo. So yeah.
I'm Passaniti. I'm head of production at Highdive in Chicago for a creative agency. I help build the production department within the agency, and we're really excited to be here.
So my name is Rogier, Roger Vijverberg. I'm the founder of an agency called Superhero. So I'm a superhero. So our agency is on a mission to save the world from boring advertising, and we're going to talk a bit today. And I'm really happy to be here.
Hi everyone, I'm Rebecca Niles, Managing Director of ArtClass. So lovely to spend the day with you all. Thank you all for being here. I manage everything from the roster of directors to working alongside brands and agencies at ArtClass with our directors and editors.
Hello everyone, I'm Will Dempster. I'm head of production at Mischief and No Fixed Dress. Pleasure to be here.
Great, thank you all. So we're going to do a couple questions for the group, and then we'll do a little free-form conversation. The first thing we all want to know, how is AI transforming traditional workflows and storytelling and production? There's a lot of opportunities there, and we want to hear you talk about if there are any new possibilities being unlocked in that concepting, ideation, strategic, design, execution. Talk about all the phases and how it's kind of weaving in and out of there.
Right on the side of it.
Do you want to start? So I guess from my standpoint is AI has allowed us to streamline processes that I found incredibly tedious and laborious in the past. I'm sure we've all been there very late at night comping something which is never going to look exactly how you want it to look like, and it was always supposed to be illustrative. I find AI has really given time back to creatives so they can actually do what they're supposed to be doing, which is concepting. And if you're not staying up until 2 a.m., looking through image galleries trying to make a storyboard, or trying to get steampunks into a vending machine somewhere in the desert, all of a sudden you can be going back to the ideas, and we know, there's always a thirst for more. So in terms of my workflow, it's things like storyboarding and image. You always have your deck with your little write-up and the image next to it. Boom, done. Get back to making more ideas. So.
It definitely feels like it elevates the vision of the creative a lot more as opposed to the trolls of execution, and that's just such an important muscle.
Absolutely.
Just to speak to the back end, that it does create a lot of efficiencies in the post process of being able to view and modify your edits or your changes in visual effects in real time. So it condenses the post-production process significantly. When we found this out with Paul, when we did the GoFundMe project, that we were able to create essentially what was 2 to 3 minute animation over the course of 3 weeks, which is just not heard of in a traditional CGI visual effects workflow.
So we find ourselves a lot of times having to create rip videos at 11 o'clock at night, or we have a pitch the next week, and we've seen a lot of opportunity in AI in terms of image generation with Midjourney, or creating a voiceover out of nothing, or a voiceover that existed, and feeding it a script to try something out on top of a video without having to wait to get our voiceover in a talent booth. And we can play. It gives us the power to play, and it does that at a very low risk with little cost.
Yeah, I have to say, for me, it's been like a mixed bag of experiences. So when people talk about saving time, I'm not really sure if it saves time. Like, I've been spending so much time tinkering and trying and prompting and learning how to prompt, that I'm not sure if I've really saved any time. I think it costed me like a few hours of sleep every night. But I have been enjoying the process, and I think that is the most important thing. So like, if you look at what creativity stands for, then I think it's about tinkering, it's about play, it's about finding kind of nuggets that you haven't found before, and bringing that and mixing that into the process. And that's, I think, the most important experience for me. So.
For me, my experience has been, it's breaking down barriers for entry. Something we don't talk about a lot is that it can be very expensive to be creative. And I meet a lot of directors, I read a lot of scripts, and horror films have traditionally been the entryway into feature films and into making your first film. And I'll see scripts that are more sci-fi, and I say, well, this is when I get $20 million. I'll be able to do that one. But now, you don't need $20 million to be developing these kinds of worlds and creatures and costumes. And traditionally, you have to work your way up to the studio system, however you may need to do that. But that isn't for everyone. And we know from all of the panels that we've been on throughout the day today and the folks that we meet, not everyone can do that, but we need to hear those stories from those folks. So being able to have these different types of stories told by folks without the same resources that they traditionally needed within the studio system has been really exciting.
I think this works. This is great. I mean, Mischief, we're very much a strategic shop that we start with what we need to solve for first, then we build strategy around how we're going to solve it, and then the creatives build a vision of what that looks like. And then production, we're always along the line on these early conversations, but that's where production really brings the ability to utilize something like generative AI in a production process efficiently. The latest campaign we did for Tinder Global out-of-home stills was a perfect example of this. We explored close to 100 scenarios of background situations that were supposed to be lifestyle driven, right? So we had to create some sort of lifestyle looking event where two people are going to be having a real moment that was impactful to their relationship. We only needed 13 final outputs, but because we had 3 weeks, instead of doing this all, practically we figured that the Unreal Engine use was a perfect solution for this, and we rolled it out. The client was excited, we were excited. It's had a ton of great success out there, and I think without that ability to use something from an AI or a generative AI image tool, we probably wouldn't have gotten so far in that exploration. So for us, we're really diving in on the exploration side of it.
That's awesome. I hear us talking a lot about the visual capabilities in AI. Can anyone talk about some of the specific ways that they've been using ChatGPT to change their workflows? Are you like making production calendars in ChatGPT now? Like, what am I not doing that I need to be doing?
I've integrated it into my day-to-day tenfold. I use it for everything from press releases to getting an understanding of how to streamline bid letters to understanding how we can be writing our newsletters better, working with directors across treatments, not necessarily the written of the treatment, but what is the most effective ways to do so. Helping me out writing job descriptions and things that day to day that I think as producers we feel like everything that we do is so bespoke and so specific to that very job. But when we need to find out what is on the Euro and has rolling hills and is sunny in this month because we're trying to figure out where in the world to shoot, the research is all right there. So for me, I task all producers, just have fun with it, and the way that the creatives are really spearheading all of this and showing us what they can do. I think as producers, it's also our duty. We're meant to be the experts on absolutely everything. The only thing that I don't think we'll ever be able to do is control the weather, but just about everything else we need to be the experts on. And now that we have chat right in front of us to streamline the things that I stay up late at night to do anyway, maybe I can be late at night doing more interesting things or becoming an expert. More, what are the 20% that I can learn about this to be 80% effective has really helped me a lot with chat every day, needing to understand so much of the production universe as it changes every day.
Well, I do think Unreal Engine can control that weather for you. Next question is around clients. There might be some in the room. It's not a dirty word. We want to know. We want to know how they're responding to the AI technologies when you talk to them about it. Are they hesitant? Are they worried? Do they think that you should have it already figured out, and why aren't you bringing me more of it? How are you convincing them to jump on the train?
I can respond to that. Well, I feel kind of privileged because so far I have had a very positive client experience with AI. Specifically, the GoFundMe client was unusually amenable to our concept that we put forth. They were a very forward-thinking client. They were very excited to be on the front line of this new technology and put out this commercial spot made, almost 100% out of AI technology. And so for that, we were very lucky. Now, that is not to say they weren't afraid, and maybe we were a little bit as well, because this was, back in last year, August, so everything was new. So yeah, so far so good. I will say though, the post-production process needs a little bit more hand-holding, even though there's usually a certain level of hand-holding, but in this case, a little bit more educating them on that the process is going to be, and this is going to sound weird, more organic when using artificial intelligence, because you don't really know what you're going to get certain times. So having like a rigid schedule of round one, approvals, round two, approval, it doesn't really work that way. So educating your client prior to the process and getting them accustomed to it's going to be a completely different post process is helpful.
Yeah, to piggyback off that from the creative landscape, I think it's easy to keep a client happy when you're not adding an extra shoot day when you change location from, San Francisco to Australia or wherever. You can make easy amends on the go, which can keep clients incredibly happy. So for that particular project, we wouldn't have been able to do it for the budget that was out there if we were to try to do it from a traditional animation technique, or even just the iterations in the script that we had to keep, adapting to. I guess my only client, flag I've had so far comes down to, recently came up with, believe it or not, a cool print ad. And it was just very, very, instantaneous. Like, this would be awesome. And I'm like, okay, go run it. And you're like, no, that was the concept. That was an illustration of the concept. We need to license it. We need to shoot it. We need to do X, Y, Z. So there still because the output is so solid, there still is a little bit of a gap there. But it's been extremely positive with our collective experiences, thank God.
So at Highdive, it was important for us to start an open and honest conversation with our clients very early on. We find a lot of them are nervous about it, and they're nervous about their jobs, and they're having all the same nervousness that we are. But we kind of jumped in and just started educating. We're meeting with all of our clients individually to talk about what is AI, and its basic terms. How is it being used? How are we all using it? imagine what it'll look like in the future, and then having those honest conversations about what are the ethical limitations, what are the ethical risks, what are the legal risks, what are the biases that come along with it, and all of those things that we're a little too scared to jump off the ledge with right now. But when the time comes, we're going to be ready, and we're going to educate ourselves. We're having conversations with our production partners, and doing things like this so that when it's time and we feel ready to do it, we're ready to go.
Yeah, from my perspective, so if you look at creativity and if you look at clients, then I think like one of the mechanisms of this moment, everybody's super interested, so clients of course as well, but it needs to make sense why you use it, right? So there needs to be an insight, there needs to be an idea. If that isn't there, then it's AI for the use of AI, and that doesn't make any sense. Now, additionally, like what we do as an agency, we really focus on younger audiences, so we did a bit of research, and we found that like they are actually, first of all, like really quite scared about it, but they also don't really see it as creativity, because if a machine does it, is it real? Like, is it real creativity there? So they are super interested in also going behind the scenes and really understanding like how something was made as well. So if you're not doing that and you're just using AI for the sake of AI, then as a client I would be kind of a little bit afraid of it, because it's not going to work.
And from a production partner perspective, we've been doing a lot of education. Paul was I'd say Paul was the first and only director when AI was first really hitting the scene, that Paul has a deep understanding of brands and what it's like to work with a brand, as opposed to creating the fun imagery that perhaps didn't really tie to a legacy brand that's been around for so long, that isn't ready to change everything up just because AI has hit the scene. So we've been doing a lot of the education, saying, hi, we're ArtClass, your friendly neighborhood director and editor roster. A lot of people say, we do things differently around here. We don't. We do it the normal way. We're just very nice, and we look forward to the future alongside you. But plenty of folks have reached out to Paul and ArtClass in general just to say, hey, how do I do this? What do we do? And we just want to demystify the process in general. And then when the agency teams go to their brand partners to be able to speak to it, we have the portfolio of work plus the expertise that Paul has been doing for all of this time that's really been able to just calm a lot of the fears and the unknowns around things.
It's great to go at the end of these because you said everything.
You can jump in whenever.
I like this. The biggest thing for us is transparency with the clients and just showing trust in the partners, right? You need to have somebody that knows what they're doing on the other side of this. Like, your partner needs to know what they're doing. And that's, for Mischief, all of our production partners are always, in our mind, perfect for the job. So as long as you're doing that, I think clients have been very open and understanding to being walked through what's going to happen in that experience.
Amazing. So speaking of specific experiences, I'd love to hear about possibly a production challenge that couldn't have been solved without AI in the past and you've been able to tackle thanks to these new tools.
That's my prompt. And I happen to be sitting right here. Emlyn and I just got off a recent project where we were working with a high-profile athlete, celebrity athlete, and we were aware that there was an injury, and so we curated our creative to include kind of low-impact actions. When we learned very late in the game that he was in fact too injured to do even those actions, and this was within the AICP cancellation window. So we would have owed all of production and 50% of post at that time, which was over $1 million. So we got real creative with our production and our post company to figure out what we could do. So we ended up relying quite heavily on Body Double, who was in fact his actual body double, so that helps. Once the athlete he was able to come to set, so we took facial scans up, down, side, all around facial, and then him doing gestures, and then the Body Double did all of the actions actually better in the sense that he could move quite well. And then now that's all being processed in AI training and facial training and in the machines now. So that once we get to our first edit, we will have hopefully the AI will have enough information to wrap the celebrity face around our body double. This is, deep fake, yes, but it's a much more sophisticated version, I guess, where we're combining a lot of AI tools in a proprietary way, along with traditional CGI methods to pull this off. So the client saved $1 million, and we are hopefully going to have a successful campaign as a result.
What she said.
Will, I'd love to hear about some of your experiences overcoming production challenges with AI. Skipping the line.
I was prepping myself. I mean, the deepfake conversation is always one that's kind of like, what are we? Mischief, one of our first spots was the deepfake with Vladimir Putin. Two gentlemen who represent us, our non-for-profit client who was pro-vote. This is like the stuff that AI can do now is amazing. We had 10 days. We had to find a hobbyist on YouTube to do this because, unfortunately, the bigger shops weren't able to make the timeline work. So how we solved that problem was we went out and we casted based on voice authenticity first, and then we ran the sim on our 3 top casting options until we selected it. We shot them the next day, and then we just ran it through the model, and we did a little bit of cleanup on the hairline, the eyes, the nose, and mouth. But that was from start to finish 10 days, right? We were getting quoted 6 months, and this is 2020. And now it's great to see how much has been done in the last few years in terms of the efficiencies and the accuracy and the cleanliness, the sharpness of everything. So that's one.
Rogier, I'd love to hear you talk about, with all these tools and all these creatives starting to use them all at once, do you think advertising might end up in kind of a sea of sameness once we start applying these production flows to our work?
Yeah, I think that's one of the interesting questions of this moment. Like when you say that you find somebody online like an amateur, I think for us, like working in creativity, if you see the speed of development, if you see how fast it goes, so tools being released, something is not possible within a few days. If you see like what applications there are, how everybody's jumping on it, and the level of quality or maybe the level of creativity is pretty amazing. Like what is coming out. So the question is like, what does that mean? Like, if this progresses, like will then everything be as awesome as it is now, or will it be very common because we're seeing it all the time because everybody can do it? So this democratized element of creativity is super awesome, and is also super interesting because creativity will be looking probably like a little different in a few years. So what is the craft? The craft is probably like things that like you are doing, like we're like mixing all these different tools, and then you get all these unexpected outcomes, which is really amazing. And but then also showing how you did it and really sharing that. And I think that's craft. Like craft is maybe not so much, claymation anymore. That might change.
Yeah, the question of originality definitely comes up when we think about using these tools. Recently, I've started feeding AI, like, give me a conceptual ad for a travel credit card. And then what it gives me, that's what I'm not gonna do. So, like, now I know, like, that's what the computer processed and thought that is out there in the world, and it makes sense for that. I need to push against it and start from backwards.
Yeah, maybe like it's a fun like sideline story, but we built an AI creative director at our office. It's actually a robotic owl, so it's pretty special. And but we also gave it a sarcastic version of ChatGPT, so it's basically killing every idea, which makes you think twice about it. There's a video about it. We're actually launching it this week. But, yeah.
Jen, could you tell me some more about the tools that you're using at Highdive? I know y'all have done some amazing work for great clients like Jeep, and I love all the stuff that you do for the NHL. I'd love to hear about the tools and how those are helping you.
Yeah, I mean, we're using it a lot in the creative development process right now. Every creative has Midjourney, and they're playing with it every day. You're seeing it in storyboard concept to get on the same page as our clients and our production partners when we just want to illustrate the words that are in our head. And sometimes it's so hard to have someone imagine what you're saying. And even something as simple as a set design on a production, to be able to give the set designer an image that you're thinking of that was just created in Midjourney and say, this is exactly what I want, can save so much time and so much back and forth. And it can serve as a jumping off point, and Midjourney and other generative AI systems can give you things you never thought you wanted. So we're doing that, and then we're just last week we were working on an animatic, boardomatic, and we were talking about illustrations and should we create those in AI. And I found out that illustrators are starting to adopt this, and it's helping them streamline their process, and if they can be faster, that means we can be faster. So it's reaching all tentacles of production.
Yeah, I wonder if anyone here has experience or can speak to the legal ramifications of using it in work. I know at HAVAS is past that, right? At HAVAS, the official rule for us right now is play, don't publish. So, we're using it to inspire thinking and to help us direct, but we still need to create our own work. We can't, own the rights to the sources that fed the AI, so we don't technically own that imagery. So there's a lot of moral implications, and I'm sure lawyers have opinions.
First of all, I'm not a lawyer, so disclaimer. The legality of this is a thing. I've had multiple conversations with our business affairs, our legal team, as to whether or not this AI imagery or footage is copyrightable, and just kind of how it's evolving and how complex it is. And it kind of hinges on three things. It's jurisdiction, so where you created the imagery, the level of human involvement in the creation, and there's a third thing that I'm spacing out right now that I'll get back to. It's very important though. Hi. But I can speak for the U.S. jurisdiction. Currently, I got it. Number two is the terms and conditions of each of these different platforms. They're all over the place. They can change, and I'm sorry, any OpenAI people, I would love to talk to you about the legal, but it's very hard to navigate through what is real and what isn't when it comes to this. But I'm gonna keep this short. I'm rambling on about boring legal shit. But in the U.S., the U.S. Copyright Department does not recognize AI created imagery as being able to be copyrightable, and therefore it isn't licensable, and therefore it isn't ownable. And what that means is it's tricky because we have agreements as an agency with our client that whatever we create, they own. But if we create something they don't own, there are hard conversations that need to be had. So that's kind of where we're at with that.
Well done.
Thank you.
I'm sure most of us have sat on long legal sessions about how we can and cannot use, where you should use. So I think, it's
a landscape that's it's continuing to evolve. These conversations I know are happening, and we have to get to a point where we figure this out and soon.
All business managers should get a raise.
People want to use this stuff, right? So that's the big hang up right now, and I think we can all openly admit that. It's okay, who owns it?
Yeah.
So that's what we're trying to.
And it doesn't have to be copied. As a side note, it's not mandatory that it has to be copyrighted to be licensable. But there is a question of whether or not it's owned, and from big corporations like that, this question isn't gonna that's not going to fly, essentially. Or there's ways to mitigate like everything by what we did with Paul Churlo and the GoFundMe. We had kept a log of every single prompt word that we used to create these environments and whatever elements were contained in the environments. And in that case, we then ran them all through legal. So we have a checks and balances in play to refer back to. So it wasn't like we used any logos, we didn't use any famous names, etc. So it's one way to the process on.
Yeah, you can't say give me a photo in the style of Annie Leibovitz and expect legal to say you can keep that.
Put a Coca-Cola in there and some Nike swooshes.
Emlyn, I'd love to hear from you from a creative perspective about keeping that spark of humanity in the imagery and how we can help talk to the computers about our experience as humans and what we see as real and help them find their path to conveying that emotion realistically.
Yeah, it's a conversation that we have with our client a hell of a lot while we're going through initial stages, because there's all of these ingredients that you need to add that are subtleties to human nature, right? So one thing, I feel like this is the ball show today. One thing that we have learned from the last couple of AI projects that we've worked on is that motion capture is incredibly important if you want to do anything film related. You know, if you want animation, if you want any movement, the subtleties of how people move, the subtleties of how people interact, the subtleties of emotion are so nuanced, and we can really, humans can pick up on it like that. So if you don't capture that sort of stuff before you run it through whatever you're using, a DALL-E, a Stable Diffusion Midjourney, a runway, it's not going to look right. It will always look like it was created by a machine that thinks it knows how humans interact with each other. So that's from an AI standpoint. And I think the other big thing is AI should always just be a tool in the basket that we've talked about. You can add humanity by a really convincing VO that is raw and powerful, and you go, holy crap, that juxtaposes so nicely to that. Or a really beautiful song, or the toolbox that we go to when we're creating anything, whether it be traditional animation, film. You have to inject that. You can't rely solely on AI to do that for you, because it just doesn't work. Not yet, at least.
Yeah, the creative toolbox opening up is really fascinating. I think a lot of copywriters are feeling very inspired by having access to AI and the way that they can help bring their visions to life visually as they're collaborating. And I think it's putting so much more emphasis on the importance of the idea. Have you been seeing any kind of elevation in your teams as they're filtering themselves through these new tools and finding new ways to express their thoughts?
Is this one for me?
Anybody.
The one thing I will say is it's elevated some ideas from a quick, do I understand it, without having to read a crappy write-up. You know, like, that's a really good visual, that's a good headline, understood. You know, so I feel like it has fast-tracked those elements, but I still think that from a conceptual level, that has to come from the person, and it has to come from personal experiences. I'm a firm believer everything should start on a piece of paper and a pen, should never start anywhere else, in my opinion. And if you're looking for inspiration, go to a record store, go somewhere else. You know, don't go outside, as somebody else was saying. You know, go to an art gallery. So I still think it is down to the individual. I don't think it is a fast track to being a creative rock star at all. I do think it can quickly convey a complex idea with a little bit more efficiency. Let's say if you're a copywriter that never learned Photoshop, but you had a great idea and you're like, that's it, you know? So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, and how are y'all, as leaders in your companies, helping these creatives get on board with it and helping, spread it through the company and helping them train?
One of the things that we have done is at a pretty early stage we built, because one of the challenges is access for everybody, because there's subscriptions and there's limitations in number of tries that you can get, and so we built this portal. This portal contains whatever, like 11 or 12 or 15 tools, so we're constantly adding to it, and that's available for everybody all the time. Like, it's And that has really helped. That has really helped everybody adopt, I would say, the possibilities. When I'm saying everybody, I don't mean everybody, by the way. Because what also, it's a rule of thirds, I think. Like the third is always super enthusiastic, the other third kind of liking it, and the other third is just, I don't know, like they cannot find the button. So it's been, but the people that have embraced it is surprising. Maybe just to respond to you, like when people started to use it, like some went totally in. So all the ideas needed to come from ChatGPT, but you kind of stop thinking then. So that's been the experience. You stop thinking, and like when you stop thinking, it doesn't go anywhere. So it's really using it, putting it away, go for a walk, indeed, or like, and then bring it back in to see if it works. So I think that's been our process.
Could you tell me any ideas that the OWL creative director killed?
No.
Copyrighted. Rebecca, could you talk to me about as agencies are coming here talking about AI, what are their top questions?
Definitely, how do we even begin the conversation? How much does it cost? How long is it going to take? Is it going to look weird? And just kind of like, what do I even do? What's the jumping off point? It's a lot of just the preliminary educational questions. Always also is cultural available. Top question when we're speaking about AI. Same reports. That's pretty much, it's just more informational. It's kind of a hands up, we want to get involved, we don't necessarily know what to do, and the questions get quite particular to the specific job once we do dive in together.
Just a quick thing, at one point I did type in stuff into chat GPT and I sent it over to Corwin, and I was like, is this what I should tell my client? That he's like, yeah, that's actually really impressive. I'm like, thank you. But anyway, our class has been amazing with that educating piece, so thank you.
All right, final question. The future, can you see it? What do you think AI is going to do to creative and production in the future?
Let's start at the end of the line.
The hard one.
Yeah, if I could borrow anyone's crystal ball, I'm happy to answer this one. I have no idea. I honestly, I would love to sit here and pretend I knew what the future had in store for OpenAI. I don't. It's exciting. It's still being built. So I'm going to be paying attention very closely. That's for sure.
I think we'll eliminate a lot of the back and forth of things, the minutiae that we're stuck doing that perhaps hold us back from getting to the things that we want to be doing. Things at the end of your to-do list, the things you're not waking up in the morning excited to go to. I think we'll eliminate a lot of that and a lot of things that are outsourced that folks are feeling they're unethical, perhaps on the VFX side and things like that, that we're not taking away jobs, we're perhaps streamlining things so that we're still treating folks like humans and perhaps having a different look at how we execute these things as well. And the rest, turn with will. We'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like what we do is we don't make boring advertising, so we try to make it kind of fun. And what I'm interested in if AI can actually have humor, because humor is a construct as well. So it has timing, has a rhythm. So how much can it do in that? I would be really curious. And I'm also really curious what happens when it cracks the code of humor. Will it still be funny? So maybe we'll all be Jerry Seinfeld very soon. And then what? So basically, I have no clue either.
One topic we didn't touch that I'm interested to see what happens in the future is how SAG and talent will evolve with this, and how celebrity contracts will be made. I've seen how this can affect local marketing and taking a celebrity and making them an avatar and giving local businesses a tool to take that celebrity and feed them their own script and make their own thing. And so I'm just curious to see what that looks like with SAG and how long it will take, because it's inevitable, right? So that's not a prediction, it's just a curious thought.
For myself, I thought about this a lot. I think from my standpoint, it will democratize creativity and create more creators. You know, there was a time when only educated people knew how to read or write. Gutenberg's printing press changes that. There was a time not many people could afford a film camera. Digital SLRs changed that. The iPhone changed that again. It's always created more creators, more creativity, more storytelling. And if this is just yet another tool in the quiver of communication evolution, it's going to create more people that can tell some more interesting stories that may never have been able to do it before.
Well said. I think I've spoken enough.
I'm getting
What
to
they
my own
said.
question. I am very fascinated by the inputs that go into AI and how it's from a global reach of imagery and conversations and articles, and how if we can ever filter those to singular perspectives and hear from AI, like from the perspective of a 38-year-old mom, could you help me blank blank? Or the taste level that we have as creatives, could I tell AI, for, with the taste level of the Louis Vuitton design director, could you help me generate X, Y, Z? Like I'm really excited to start to mold AI toward my own tastes and experiences and the targets that I'm working toward, and I'm hoping that that power enables us to be smarter and more tailored and more individualistic towards these creative problems we're solving. But thank you all. I'm sorry that we don't have time for questions. They're about to kick us off this beautiful rooftop. So go enjoy some rosé and reach out, and we'd love to talk to you in the closet.